Hey guys, how is everybody doing today? I'm recording the day before Testimony Tuesday. The topic that I am going to be discussing today, but I'm glad that I have the courage to speak up and tell my experiences on mental health. Bear with me. I did type it up because it's very lengthy. So hopefully whoever's watching, hopefully you do not look at my situation different than anybody else's situation because I get into full detail about this. So it is real. Mental health is something that is now likely to be talked about, but I feel as though a lot of people who are mental health advocates, a lot of people really haven't personally experienced or even been diagnosed themselves. So just bear with me. This is very touchy. Okay, today's topic kind of has me shook, a little nervous. Back then, I would have said embarrassed because not many actually can step up to say that they have an illness and are open to seek treatment. But many who have an illness are attacked or criticized because of it. But me, I don't care what anyone has to say about what I go through or even what I've had to go through, because I had to go through what I did in order to encourage anyone else battling with what God has already healed me from. But anyways, I feel this way because just yesterday, I talked with Larry about my topic for tomorrow's testimony. He immediately said, talk about retribution, talk about how you used to rather talk bus. I know that's a weird combination, but my husband has a really great sense of humor, but he wasn't even for sure why he said that big word when we both didn't have an exact clue what it really meant. He told me to Google the definition of retribution, so I did. Retribution means punishment inflicted on someone as vengeance for a wrong or criminal act. After I read that definition, my heart skipped a beat, and I thought about how I was diagnosed with anxiety and bipolar at 21 years old, or I could have been 22. Before I begin discussing my story, I just want to first say that depression, anxiety, and any form of mental illness, I do believe that it is a sickness that a person alone can create themselves based on their own thoughts and experiences, which may be in or out of a person's control, or mental illness can be passed down if not treated. Maybe someone in your family has it or had it. I am still in question who in my family has bipolar, anxiety, and depression. I was recently told that my grandmother was diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is hard for me to believe. I couldn't see her having that form of illness. But mental illness doesn't have a face. Anyone can get it, but this form of illness can be pinpointed due to the activity happening in the brain. I know from experience, depression specifically causes a person's spirits to be down. They think more negative, they oversleep, they overeat, or don't even have an appetite to eat anything at all. Motivation disappears, and the couch or bed becomes their main source of comfort. There are many other behaviors and activity a person who battles with mental issues does, but those are a few things that I myself experienced. If a new way of thinking, a better way of thinking isn't created, or if that person doesn't seek any counsel, a mentally ill person may create suicidal thoughts, or those same thoughts may cause someone to actually commit it. All of this made me believe that I was cursed. Not saying everyone who suffers is cursed, but God did not intend for any one of us to have to deal with such a mind-restricted disease. During that time, before I was admitted to a psych ward, I felt as though my relationship with God was getting to where I needed it to be. I have an addicted spirit. That is why I am now very careful to what I listen to and what I watch, because the more I feed my mind of something, my action shows. I read my Bible every day. I prayed a lot. I was just finding my happy place with God, and I felt His presence. It scared many people close to me, but no one understood what I was experiencing with the Holy Spirit but me and God. Maybe it wasn't for anyone to know unless they had their own relationship with Him. but I tried making it a point for everyone to make God their priority, as I was trying to do. I'm not sure if anyone remembers, but a few years back, I began going on a God rant on all of my social media. I mean, I do post godly things and positive things, but no, back then it's like I was forcing scripture and God on my followers and friends on Facebook. I didn't even realize what I was saying or what I was doing. There were some people in my past that I knew I had hurt. I began apologizing to people. There was just so much that I was doing that now when I think about it on the outside looking in, people probably thought I was crazy or schizophrenic myself. I remember I had started my first call center job and I didn't have a car at the time, so it took me like 2 to 3 TARC buses to get across the bridge. I was on a spiritual journey, but one I wasn't physically or mentally equipped for. One morning I woke up. I was supposed to be on my way to my new job. I believe I was there for only 2 weeks at the time, but I woke up extremely late. I wasn't sleeping at all during this period. I would lay down, my eyes was closed, but my conscience was still woke, if that makes sense. The moment it was time to leave out, I started the microwave. There was no food in it. Got out to the parking lot, got on my knees, and screamed out to God that I was sorry. So I thought, Larry said I was looking at him at the time that it happened. From that moment, I knew I scared him. I believe that he had to call our pastor and tell him what happened, but I just really couldn't explain and describe what I was experiencing on the inside. It was so new to me that the only word I could put on it was that I was cursed. Maybe I wasn't. During these times, I found myself so paranoid. I was scared to breathe the air. I was scared that someone was out to blow up the city. I was scared to sit in the car. I was scared to be on social media. I was just scared of everything. Anyways, that day after I had screamed, "I'm sorry" to God, I went to go get on the bus. The driver knew me by now, and I ended up getting off like 4 stops too soon. And I remember him saying, "Ma'am, don't you get off in the next few stops?" I'm not sure what I had told him at the time, but I did get off the bus too soon anyways. I was walking downtown and ended up going to Wayside Mission, which is a homeless shelter. I remember talking with a lady named Carol. That's my granny's name, who has passed. But in my head, I felt like everyone who I talked to, everyone who I heard talking, I just felt that they were all talking to me and about me. I felt that everyone needed my help and I was ready to help them. So I thought. I went inside and I didn't realize that my purse and everything that I keep with me, my ID, my keys, my wallet, was all left on the bus when I had gotten off. The clerk had asked me my name. I forgot. I didn't know who I was. Someone walked me to the hallway, got on an elevator, and all I remember was sitting on a bed with a girl my age repeating over and over, "God is real. God is real." The staff and a few police officers were surrounded us as I was saying this. I'm assuming they thought I was on drugs and needed mental help. Maybe I did. I still don't know, but I was in the back of a police car on my way to the Louisville Psych Ward, floor 5, I think. I'm trying to sum up my psychosis experience as much as I can, but so much happened that day. Some of it makes sense, but a lot didn't. I remember staff and doctors asking what was wrong. Have I taken any drugs? Apparently my reaction said I did, but when they tested me, I was clean. I had a brain scan, and that's when they diagnosed me. I was doped up on so many meds. Risperidone was one of the medicines that I remembered. That medicine had me like a zombie. Taking those meds was an experience I would never want anyone else to experience. It was probably too high of a dosage, but I just did not want to accept the fact that I needed to be on medicine for the rest of my life. So I quit. This time, with all that I went through, I was too scared to go back to the place where I once was, which was with God. So I turned back to smoking instead. I said back because I prayed and asked God to take the taste of it from my mouth, and so He did. I was probably 6 months clean before I had my mental breakdown. Studies does prove that cannabis does have its positive medicinal healing purposes, and it did in fact help me with my anxiety, and it did help me sleep since I was having a hard time doing so. I was having a hard time sleeping without the medicine that the doctors prescribed. But then the issue arose when I was smoking just because. Day in and day out, I would smoke. I didn't even feel the need to, but I did it anyways because everyone who I was around did it also. So instead of smoking to help ease tension and anxiety, it became a habit, more like an addiction. I turned into a punk because I was choosing to use something easy to access to fill a void that only God could heal and fix. I was running away from God. I didn't know why. It's almost as if I had gotten so comfortable doing the things everyone else did instead of diving deep into the Word, studying, praying, asking God for guidance and forgiveness and so forth. I was lost, and I allowed myself to become just that. I guess my spirit felt guilty because I had committed a dangerous act, an act in going back to doing something He delivered me from. Now, I'm not saying this to make all the ones who do smoke feel some type of way, or to assume that doing something more than what you really should be doing isn't a bad thing. I just want people who feel that way to think again. I'm just trying to express the fact of how God is a jealous God and will allow things to happen to us just because we are disobedient to Him, or He will just make us go through things just to test our faith to make sure that we are as strong as we say that we are. Whatever we go through, God has the final say so, whether we like it or not. During that time period, I had lost my dream job. Well, I thought it was my dream job. That was just a job that opened the door for better future employment. I had lost my ability to be a productive mother. I had lost my ability to cook. I lost my ability to clean. I lost my ability to function. It took me months to find another job when I used to be the one who stayed at a job for years before looking for another if I needed to. I used to be that mom that taught her kid at home, did cool home experiments, and just made do with what she had. I just was that person people would go to for advice and so forth. During that season, and I call it a season because it didn't last long, may have felt long, but I thank God where I am today. But during that season of tests, trials, and tribulations, I had to learn that nothing in this world can make me feel whole, can make me feel loved, can make me feel victorious, can make me feel at peace, it can make me happy as what God can. Now it's 3 years later from the time, and I am still unmedicated. I had my highs and lows where I would start smoking again, but it wouldn't be as much as I used to until I completely stopped again. It doesn't matter how long I've been clean. What matters is that I have now created a strict schedule that works for me, that helps me focus on God and not my problems. I was one of those people who thought I was too strong. Funny thing is, I was saying this while having no personal connection with God. After I had gotten diagnosed, I left the hospital, tried to live out my life, still without God. I ended up back in the hospital. This time it was for almost a week instead of 3 days, like the first time that I had got admitted. It's like no matter how much I smoked, how much medicine I would take, I also had a psychotherapist which I felt that did me no good, because I could sense that she was there for her check instead of intentionally there to help me reach self-stability or close to it again. I still felt empty. I still felt lost. I still felt helpless. I just hid it well. This was a period in my life that no one could fix what I've created. Now, the mental breakdown, I do believe that God has sent that to me to test me to make sure I could handle a life strictly with Him. But you see, I failed that test. All because I went back doing what He told me I didn't need anymore. It isn't an easy journey stripping yourself from the world. I say that because I don't listen to certain music, because it puts me in a bad place and will have me thinking it's okay to cheat on my husband or be promiscuous. I don't go to certain places like the club. Yeah, I used to. But what I know now, there are things in the atmosphere that could possibly I could pick up and bring back at home. Things like someone else's attitude, someone else's habits, etc. I try my hardest, which sometimes I do slip up, not to cast judgment on anyone. I try my best to find positive out of what we may see as the negative. In my spare time, which I still am guilty at times with just scrolling on social media, but in my free time, I will read, I will write, I will jam to worship music, old school music, or Afro beats when I clean the house or cook. I am more intentional with what I feed my mind, body, and soul. I have lost over 30 pounds. because I'm focusing more on what I eat. Although I do have my slip up periods, but hey, I'm working on it. But you see, mental health is important. Although there may be those who have to take medicine or have to go to a rehabilitation centers or who have to have counseling, regardless of what has to be done, we have to think about what needs to be done when we experience those low points. Points where motivation is gone, when insecurity arises, or when anger peaks. What are we doing for those feelings to come about? Is it something someone said? Something you saw on Facebook? Are you questioning how you look because you just saw someone with surgery on Instagram that now has a perfect body that you want? I mean, these are the things we have to take in consideration because every negative thought gets sent to our brain and bruises it somehow. My grandmother had maybe 4 or 5 strokes and 2 or 3 brain aneurysms. There are people who experience these same defects and pass away immediately. Some may have heart attacks or other health issues leading up to the amount of stress and anxiety that person has. There are a lot of things we all experience. At the end of the process is how we encounter it and what we will do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Although we have no control on what happens or what happened, but what we are in control of is our emotions, which ties into how we choose to handle things. Whether we choose to get angry when our car messes up, instead, thank God that you have the means to get it fixed, or thank Him for having another way of transportation. Whether someone says something out of the norm that makes you feel unsettled, instead, pray for that person. Whether we get frustrated when something doesn't go our way, instead, take deep breaths and know that with your obedience to the Lord, He will fix it. What I've learned from that season of mental growth, I learned to not look at any situation as a bad thing. I look at it as, what is God telling me to do? What is God trying to teach me from this? Or what is God trying to keep me away from when things don't go as planned? There was a time period a long time ago when I had gotten my first car. I had a blowout on the highway while on my way to work. I could have got pissed off. I could have cried, fussed, or cussed. But no, I took it as a blessing because at the time that it happened, when I felt my tire explode, luckily there were no cars in sight. I immediately turned to the side of the road, not even looking out any mirror to make sure nobody was behind or alongside of me. Because of that, something worse could have happened, but it didn't. I even thank God it happened because that was a time period where I was needing a new car because my first car was starting to have issue after issue. And I had told myself that once my 97 Toyota Camry's wheels fell off would be the day that I would make a big girl purchase, and that I did. It probably was like that weekend, and I left dealership that same day with the 2016 Chevy Cruze, which I still have today, but an upgrade 2018 version of it. But I've learned not to take things so serious to the matter that I meditate on it, worry about it, start to become anxious about it, start to lose sleep about it. Whatever it is, I pray to God about it and leave it at just that. I know that this was a long testimony, and I thank everyone who made it to the end, and I hope that you share this because mental health is a serious thing. Being mentally okay, I won't say stable because we all have issues, but to be mentally okay with whatever life throws at you is the only way to overcome negative thinking after issues arise. When you put your main focus on the creator of who can grant you life, happiness, peace, life becomes easier. It becomes easier to handle. You will then learn to plan ahead regardless of what the outcome will be. You will learn who you are and what you're capable of doing, and will do anything to stay in the presence of the higher power. Because once you think everything is okay, and once you think you can mentally tackle life head on and choose to stop praying, choose to stop studying, even choose to stop going to church, that's when the enemy will come back and rob you blind of your peace and sanity. I encourage everyone who is battling today, even those who are seeking or getting mental treatment, don't give up. Don't allow negative thinking or certain things that you do to draw you away from what's more important. Make use of your time and feed your spirit of positive things. Surround yourself with positive people. Get away from things that will have you thinking about the what ifs. Whether it's being to stay away from certain music, certain things you watch on TV, certain people you know who will criticize you about whatever you choose to try to do. Whatever it is that you need to do to stay mentally healthy, do it. Because you deserve to live a life that you love, regardless of where you are or regardless at what point you aren't.